Good afternoon. This is Leon Matthews with Rez Ramblings. Rez Ramblings from Pine Ridge, South Dakota. And I've decided that it's time to just start rambling, and hope that you can bear with me, and as we get these early stages going and start developing thought and reaction from the reservation, and how it is to live in some of the poorest places in America. And I know our reservation isn't unique, but it does have a lot of great history and has a lot of great stories. And I hope that we can begin to tell stories about our people and how we've come to this place. And I hope this is a development of basically the 21st century Indian, and how we got here. I mean, in 1492, there were said to be between 12 and 20 million American Indians living in what we know as the United States of America, and about 10 to 12 million of those people lived on the East Coast, and then 4 to 6 lived on the West Coast, and then you can break up the rest, 2 to 4, and however that math works out. But they're just guesstimations. But what happened was there was an assault on a whole group of people, and the North American Indians, the different tribes, I mean, over 500 tribes represented, were almost wiped out to extinction. 1492, there was probably, I mean, what I shared with you, and there's a few more up in Canada, and a few more million. And by the year 1900, and this is an extraordinary fact, there were only about 236,000 Indians left. So in 400 years, from 1492 to 1900, there were approximately 236,000 American Indians left. And so by the year 2000, when they did the 2000 census, there was about 3.something million, 3.1 million or 3.2. But these were people that had a context, or had, they came from Indians, and they identified themselves as American Indians or Alaskans. But here, we sit in 500 years of assimilation, and a lot of the tribes out on the East Coast, I mean, they're just vanished. They've melted right into the melting pot of America. And there's a lot of people that just a few generations ago knew that one of their parents or grandparents or great-grandparents was Indian. And the systematic annihilation of a whole people group is what America did, and they almost wiped us out. And so being an American Indian, and having this understanding of and the reality, knowing the reality of what took place in this continent is really harsh. And there's a lot of stuff coming out of Canada where they would put these young Indian children into these schools, these boarding schools, and then when a child would get sick, the matrons, or the people that cared for the Indian children, would actually put the well children in with the sick children in order to destroy them, to kill them, to take the land. I mean, it was always about land. I mean, who's the landlord? Who's going to control, who's going to control this continent? And then we have, in the 1830s or 1840s, there was this idea of manifest destiny, where the white man, the European American, felt like it was his duty to own the land, to overtake the land at any cost. And it came out of a newspaper. An editor wrote an article and basically said, hey, have at it. You can do whatever you want, because God has gifted us this land. This is the New Jerusalem. This is the land of milk and honey. This is the promised land. And with that idea, they took Old Testament, an Old Testament understanding, and they started to just wipe out the people here. And you might be one of those people who have an ancestor, or maybe more, that was Indian, and then you might even, you know, have come to an understanding where you yourself feel connected to being Indian. And there's a reason. I mean, because our identity is tied into who our ancestors are. And, you know, a lot of people will think, well, you know, what their career is, that's what makes you who you are. I'm a pastor, but it's not my identity. You know, and they've tried to, people have often said, well, you know, you need to be more like a pastor. It's like, well, you know what, I am who I am. I'm an Indian, and who ministers and may have had a 16-year career as a pastor, but ultimately, who am I? And I am my ancestors. I mean, I have both European and American Indian in me. So, you know, I believe we come from one people, one man, one woman, and the whole world has come through that. But the distinction in my identity today as a 21st century Indian, American Indian, is my grandfathers, my grandmothers, and my parents. I mean, I am my father's child. I am my mother's son, and where she came from, that's who I am. And if you take one part of your ancestry out, then I believe you cease to be who you are. And so you need to embrace who you are as a human being, but also as a distinct tribal, you know, having a distinct tribal identity. And I love to be an Oglala Lakota, and I love to tell people I'm from Pine Ridge, and just hear the stories and how powerful they are. And when people actually realize that you understand who you are as a Lakota, you know, Lakota means ally, means friend, and you know, we are friendly. You know, we're friendly people, but you know, only to an extent. I mean, don't always think we're nice, and you don't have to be nice all the time either. But you know, some of the ways that I've learned is that, you know, we need to treat everyone as a visitor and as a guest and as friendly until they prove otherwise. And sometimes, I mean, that happens very rapidly, because you need to really understand where people are coming from. And so here I am just rambling about different things, but I think it's an important part of who we are. I mean, we need to establish our identity. You know, we need to establish who we are as human beings and how we relate to the world. I mean, the whole United States indigenous people were almost wiped out. And we need to understand that, and we need to do things that are going to help us to not let that happen again. And if you find yourself, you know, a little confused and you seek understanding, maybe it is a time where you know where you come from. I come from a man, his name was Blunthorn, and this Blunthorn fought at the Little Bighorn, and he fought there, and he came back to this area, and he lived at Wounded Knee, and he had a daughter named Susie, and Susie, you know, married my grandfather, and who was half Indian, and then Susie had a son. His name was Al Matthews, and Al married a woman named Pearl Damaris, and Pearl, she came from this Standing Rock, from the people up north, the gatekeepers, you know, and she came here and she saw my grandfather and fell in love. I mean, what a powerful story, very beautiful story, and so that's where I come from. Well, they had a son named Doug, and Doug is my dad, and that's just one part of my family, and I hope to share more with you as time goes by. But know who you are. Thank you.